Scott is coming around this way. Give it up for Scott. Keep going, keep going.
Yeah, hey, well, this is exciting. I brought my notes, but yeah, it's my first time reading, so woo! All right, whatever. Yeah, all right. So my first bicycle was a Schwinn 3-speed. You pedaled backwards to brake, if you remember that, yeah. And it had probably been one or both of my older brother's bicycle at one point, but it became mine. And the way I learned to ride it, I used the most dependable teacher I had at my disposal, which was the hill that led to my house. So this was on the East Coast. In the winter, the snow plows would come in. They'd form these giant snow drifts at the bottom of the hill. In the summer, it would melt, and it would just be a sand pit and gravel. And so one day, I walked my Schwinn up to the top of the hill, and I coasted down. I felt like, yeah, I'm riding my bicycle for a few seconds, and I wipe out. And I did this again and again until my pants were ripped and both my knees were bloody. But I was, at the end, I was not wiping out every time, and soon I was pedaling up the hill. When I think back, I feel a little pride and sadness for that resourceful kid who, just like a true Gen Xer, not an adult in sight, somehow, figuring it out. The hill, it taught me how to ride a bicycle. It didn't teach me how to throw or catch a ball. And neither could my dad, who was he was laid up with depression and a bad back. If it all sounds kind of bleak, it was. It was like a 2-star childhood, just do not recommend. But things improved, and the bicycle had a big part to do with that. I really loved that bicycle and just the freedom it gave me, and I never felt athletic except when I was riding the bicycle. Like I had asthma that affected me when I ran, but on the bicycle it didn't at all. And so things just steadily improved. When I got to college, I'd always hated PE in public school. Like we had the school-sanctioned bullying they called dodgeball. But in college, I took a class in non-competitive games and yoga and fencing, and we had nude co-ed swims, which were really exciting. Yeah. And we also had this teacher named Dan who I found out he had ridden his bicycle across the country 4 times. And this just blew my mind. And I pumped him for all the information. So I learned it's not called riding a bicycle, it's called touring. And you don't wear a backpack, you have bike bags, which actually are called panniers. And you have 4, 2 on each side of the wheels. And he also told me something that was very encouraging. He said that when you're doing a long ride like this, you don't have to be in peak condition when you start out. You will train on the road. So I got really excited, and as graduation neared, I organized a bike trip to California with 4 of my friends. And we were all really pumped. We were going to go out to California on our bicycles after graduation. But as graduation grew near, I noticed none of them ever joined me on my training rides, and I wasn't even sure if any of them had bicycles. So I wasn't too surprised when they all dropped out one by one. But I graduated, I went to the bike shop, I got my bicycle, which they had outfitted with the panniers and the bike computer and the kickstand, which they didn't want to put on, but I insisted. My Schwinn had one. And I loaded it up with all my stuff, and it didn't even, from certain angles, it didn't even look like a bike. It just looked like this rolling pile of luggage. And I got on it, and it was like this wobbly tank. Like I felt like I had to learn how to ride a bicycle all over again. And I rode it across the street to this coffee shop, and I got a cup of coffee. And I just wondered, why was it so easy for all my friends to drop out, and yet impossible for me? And I realized they had told me they would go on this bike trip with me. I had told everybody I was going. And so it just felt like I couldn't back out. And anyway, I really didn't have anywhere else to go. So I hopped on the bike and just feeling like a ninny, set out to California. It was a few confusing miles later, I realized that when you put a compass on a steel frame bike, west is always to your left. So after I sorted that out, like I've been in this intersection before. I sorted that out, and finally I'm heading out. It was a late start, and the sun is setting, and I'm riding. I'm not sure where I'm going, and this kid on his bicycle joins me for a little bit, and he sees all my bags. He's like, "Hey man, where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to California." And he said, "What? You're going to California? How are you going to get there?" And I wasn't trying to be like poetic or cheesy or anything. I was just like, my literal answer was, "Well, I'm just going to follow the sun." And he just said, "Oh man." And I don't know if like he meant it in terms of like wonder at my stupidity or my bravery or maybe a bit of both. But then he peeled off, and once again I was riding on my own way, and I made it. Thank you so much.